Well, good day, Lionhearts. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said great. You know, I did one of these videos once before where I talked about various, celebrities that I had met by random occurrence or finding out they were going to be somewhere and going, and people really seem to enjoy those. So I thought, hey, let's continue that and do another video of that same type. So, I want to preface it again by saying I don't think that anyone is entitled to an autograph, a photo, just because someone chooses to make their living in the public doesn't mean that they don't deserve free time, their own time. So I'm only going to be telling stories of, I'm going to be telling my encounters, but I'm not going to tell stories about like paid meeting and greets or things like that, because I kind of feel like people are expected to be on good behavior then. But I'm just going to tell you what my interaction with them was in whatever way it was, and just, kind of let you know how it can be if you meet somebody that it's a celebrity, you may not know what to expect. So let's go ahead and do it. The first person we're going to talk about is Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al, the funny man, the parody guy. I think everybody loves Weird Al for good reason. I did not know I was going to meet Weird Al. I used to live in Los Angeles and I was trying to make my way as an actor. So I started at the very, very bottom, first doing background work and then eventually doing like stand-in stuff, just trying to get the 3 vouchers so that I could join the union. And so once I became a union member, one day I got a call saying, hey, we need you as a photo double for Comedy Bang Bang. And I think this was the 2nd season of Comedy Bang Bang, and it was at the time, it was 2 guys. It was Reggie Watts and I forget the name of the other guy, but the other guy is actually who I was there to portray. They were doing like a, I'm sure his name will pop into my head soon, but they were doing a scene where it was like kind of a Back to the Future throwback thing where they go back and see themselves and talk to themselves. So I was going to be dressed as Scott Aukerman. I was going to be dressed as Scott Aukerman, and there was another guy that was cast to just be dressed as Reggie Watts, and basically they were just going to film us from behind, so you would see the 2 real actors talking to us, and then you would just see us from the back. So it was nothing, it was no big deal. But it was an early call time and I showed up, and turns out this day there were only 6 people that were going to be on set as far as actors. So they took me to the holding area, and it was just a room in the original place that Comedy Bang Bang filmed. And all of a sudden, two guys come walking in. I had met the guy that was playing Reggie Watts. I actually knew him before from doing this kind of work. But all of a sudden, Eric Andre walks in, and there's another guy. I see him like in the corner, but I couldn't make out who it was. I just saw him in the background. And all of a sudden, an AD comes in and says, hey, everybody, come out for breakfast. So we all start going out, and there's a breakfast truck. And the guy who had come in later was actually like kind of in front of me, and he had curly hair. And I remember him going up there and ordering his food, and he said he wanted like a vegan sandwich or vegan omelet or something. And when it turned around, it was Weird Al Yankovic. I was like, holy cow. Weird Al was cast to be on this episode. He was a friend of Scott Aukerman's, and they were putting him in it. So we ate breakfast, and we went to holding, which again was just me and this other guy and Weird Al and Eric Andre. But they were filming stuff with Eric Andre, so Weird Al was there, and I was like, gosh, I'd hate to like pass up this opportunity, because I was a big fan of him growing up. I remember when UHF came out, how excited I was and everything, how much I loved the movie. So I started talking to him, and I said, hey, I don't mean to bother you, Al, but I said, I've been a fan of you for like, since I remember you coming out. I said, I remember when UHF was in the theaters, I thought, my dad and I went to the video store, and I saw you on one of the VHSs, and so we rented it. I thought it was UHF, but it turned out it was this really cool video of you asking Michael Jackson for permission to do one of his songs, and he goes, oh my God, Al TV? You saw that? I go, yeah. He goes, wow. He goes, wow, you are an early fan. He goes, wow, yeah, that was, he goes, yeah, that was pretty cool. He goes, I mean, that was kind of like a little, we were putting something out that was, you know, kind of depicting my life at that time. And I said, so can I ask you, like, I know you made a lot of parody stuff. I said, who was the coolest or weirdest, you know, interaction of you asking someone for permission? He goes, well, you know, as it went on, it became kind of like an honor for me to ask people. They would contact, you know, us and say, will he do one of our songs, you know? But he said early on, Michael Jackson was pretty cool. I go, oh, so what happened in that kind of really happened? He goes, oh yeah, he said, I asked him and he said, oh yeah, that I could do it. He goes, that was pretty cool. Knowing that Michael Jackson and Madonna liked your music, he goes, that's a pretty cool feeling. I was like, wow, that's, I mean, I could totally imagine. And he said, you know, another kind of interesting story, he said, is, and I think this was what it was. He said, I had done a parody of Hey There Delilah, and he said, and I contacted the band, they were super excited, and then once it was done, the record label didn't want me to put it out, their record label, because they thought that me doing a parody of it would hurt the sales and that people would start mocking the song. And he said, which was kind of like the first time I'd ever heard that. He goes, usually, like I said earlier, he goes, usually people contact me wanting me to do their song. So he said, so I agreed not to release it. And, you know, he goes, and I thought it was one of the better things that I had ever done. He goes, and then eventually he said the band decided to release it themselves, my version, so that the world could hear it. So he said that was pretty cool. So Weird Al, very friendly, very personable if you meet him. I'll show you a picture of me and Al that day on set, or, you know, behind the scenes and everything. But yeah, he was extremely friendly and really nice to talk to. The next person is Kerry Washington. Kerry Washington, I really only knew her from being on Scandal. That was a big show when I was doing background work and trying to work as an actor. And so one day I got a call from Central Casting saying if I wanted to work, that there was an opportunity for me to work on Scandal. And so they told me to bring like business attire, and so I showed up, and it turned out that they were going to be doing kind of a press conference scene out in front of what they use as City Hall. I didn't watch the show, just not really my kind of TV at the time, so I hadn't seen it, but I knew who was on it. I kind of got what it was about. And I remember we got, you know, all in our costumes. We've been there 2 or 3 hours. It was a really hot California, Los Angeles day that day, I remember. And then they finally called us to do our scene. God, who was it? I think maybe this was a different experience, but I think, no, this might have been a different experience. Okay, I was thinking there was a famous director who was in that episode, but I think this might have been a different filming day. Anyway, we end up filming this part outside, and it takes about an hour for us to get all the shots and film it and everything. And then I hear them say, Kerry, you're wrapped, you're done for the day. And Kerry Washington starts walking off to the side of where they had been filming, and then she actually came down in front of where all the background actors were, and she said, excuse me, everybody. Well, they wrapped me for the day, so I just wanted to thank all of you background actors for putting your all in today. I get it. This is not what you want to be doing, and that you're working your way up the ladder just the same way I did and all of us did. So thank you so much for having such a great attitude and for just really making this something special for us to film today. We really appreciate all of your efforts. And I've been on a lot of sets. I did not ever see anyone, let alone the A-list talent of the show, thank the background for anything. In fact, more times than not, I witnessed the talent look straight through the background as though they weren't even humans. They weren't even there. They weren't even people. So Kerry Washington, I didn't know anything about her before, was not a fan before, but boy, after that I was like, wow, what a stand-up character of a person, you know, like what a nice lady, because she was right. None of us wanted to be there, you know. Some people were there because they wanted to get the amount of hours that would keep them having insurance. Some people were there because they were hoping to get, you know, some director to see them and go, hey, I'm going to give you a line. Everybody was there for their own reason, but none of us really wanted to be there. and she knew it, and she knew that's just part of the process, and she kind of gave everybody there a little bit of like a, I felt like that was a pep talk. It was kind of a motivator. So Kerry Washington was totally cool in my book. That was an on-set experience. So I even rank her even higher because that was, that's something that, you know, as such a rarity on a set. Now the next person we're going to talk about is one of my childhood heroes, Dave Parker, the Cobra. I had wanted to meet Dave Parker my whole life and just never really seemed to find an opportunity to do it. And I knew that he had had Parkinson's disease, been battling it, living with it for years. So I didn't really think he did a whole lot of meet and greet type stuff anymore. And one day I was just on the internet looking around and found his foundation for Parkinson's and saw they were auctioning something. So I decided to buy it. And when I purchased it, they had in there that you could either pick it up in Cincinnati or you could have it mailed to you. And I said, you know, I'll be in Cincinnati next week. I'll just contact them and see if I can just pick it up. So that's what I did, and the guy that got back to me actually was the head of the foundation. And I was just telling him, yeah, I'd love to pick it up. I travel all over the country making videos about historical places, and this is just, you know, I'm gonna be visiting family, so I'll be in the area, and I'm a big Dave fan, so this is kind of a cool thing. I'll make a video about what I bought from you guys. So as we talked about it, then it turned into him saying, I was saying, well, you know, I always wanted to make a video on like Dave's background, but I just haven't been able to find his childhood home. And he said, you know what, I'll call Dave and find out for you. Maybe we can help you out a little bit with this video. And I was like, awesome. So he calls me back like the next day and says, hey, if we can find a day that Dave's health is good and that you're available, Dave will make a video with you. And I was like, whoa, are you kidding? I mean, this guy was my childhood hero. Like, the first person that I can remember, like, that wasn't Pete Rose, and that was because like my family talked about Pete Rose. He was the first person I saw hit a baseball that I was like, wow, that guy's my favorite now, you know? So we planned a day, and it turned out Dave's health was bad that day, so we weren't able to do it. And I ended up having to leave town. We didn't get to do it. And then about a month or two later, I was coming back into town, and he said, let's try it again. And so we met at a restaurant, and I walked in the restaurant, and there was Dave Parker. And, you know, being the guy, I mean, this guy did everything in baseball. He was an MVP, he was batting champ. Guy just did everything, and he was a monster, like, built. So cool of him, being that he is battling and living with Parkinson's, and to where, you know, when he would talk to me, he'd have a hard time keeping his head steady and stuff. He didn't have to come out and meet me. He didn't have to do any of that. You know, I had a bat that I wanted signed, and they could have just, you know, said, sorry, we can't, or hey, leave the bat, we'll get it signed for you and get it back to you. But they made it a point to like find a time that I got to meet Dave. And Dave was in such a good mood that I said, Dave, we don't have to make a video, but if you'd like to, I'd love to talk to you. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So I got to, you know, have a full lunch, hear stories from Dave, and then put him on camera, asking him other stories, getting him to tell some of the stories he had already told me, leaving out the ones that we don't want other people to know about. But man, that was so cool of them to make happen. To me, he was larger than life, and to see how good of an attitude he has with the cards that he's dealt and what he's living with, I thought it was such an amazing gesture for him to come out and meet me. So Dave Parker was absolutely awesome in my book. Now, another person that I met that was actually pretty cool, not that surprisingly be cool, Bert Kreischer, the Machine. He had his first movie come out recently. I've been following his career since probably, I want to say, 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. I used to listen to an old podcast that Joey Diaz and Felicia Michaels had called Beauty and the Beast. And I remember Bert was on there. I thought he was hilarious. And then at the time, he was on Travel Channel doing a show called Trip Flip. And it seems like they were going into production for their second season, and he was on Joey and Felicia's podcast. He was talking about what this show was. He goes like, we find two people and we send them on I go do the adventures with them, but we go do like these crazy adventures. And he goes, dude, I would love for your listeners to like submit. He goes, do you guys have any listeners that are in the LA area? Because we're going to be at the Santa Monica Promenade on Thursday, looking for people. Like, we're just gonna like find random people and kind of interview them and go from there and do our casting that way. He goes, I would love for some like cool people that are your viewers to come and find me, and like I will totally cast you. So I got it in my head. I was like, I have a Joey Diaz shirt that I had gotten made. Joey was a friend of mine. I go, maybe I can go down there with a friend, because they were casting 2 people at a time. They wanted you and a friend for all these adventures. So I got a friend of mine, Robert, to go down there with me. I go, told him the story. I go, we might get a free vacation out of this. Who knows? I go, I already talked to my boss, told her what was going on. She said if I needed 3 days off to go do this, that she would make it happen. So let's go. So we went down there. We're walking up and down the promenade, you know, all of a sudden there we see Bert, and Bert sees us, and Bert sees my shirt, and he's like, oh my God, Joey Diaz, I have to talk to you, I have to talk to you. Do you know what I'm doing here? I go, yeah, I came here for this. He's like, oh my God, let's take a photo together. So here's the photo. So he takes that photo and he immediately posts it on Twitter and tags Joey Diaz, and then Joey Diaz surprisingly responded pretty quick. He's like, hey, that's my main man, Jordan, have fun with him, you know? So Bert starts talking, he's like, hey, did you talk to your boss? Like, if I can cast you for this, can you do it? I go, yeah, dude, I'm totally in. He goes, okay, cool, let's put you on camera. So they get the camera over there and they go, start asking us questions on camera, and then they asked the one question I was hoping they wouldn't ask me, and they said, are either of you guys afraid of heights? My friend goes, no, not at all. I go, yeah, kinda. And I hear Bert go, oh man. And then they ask us some more questions and ever. And in my mind, I'm going, oh, we're gonna get this call. I can't wait, we're gonna get this call. Like 2 or 3 days goes by, and we never get a call. And I'm like, oh, what? I was like, I thought for sure, like wearing the Diaz shirt, I thought for sure he'd cast us in this, couldn't believe it. Then they start filming these. And the very first place that they go to is New York City. And he posts a photo of them doing batting practice, the 2 people he picked doing batting practice with the Yankees on the field. I'm going, oh man, I would have killed to done that. And then the second photo he posts says, and we also did firefighter training where they had to scale a 3-story building. And when I saw that, I go, okay, now I know why we weren't cast. That would have been not cool, not fun for me. So Bert Kreischer, very cool. And in fact, another add-on to that story is probably 2 months later, Joey Diaz was doing a show at the Ice House and Bert was his guest. So Joey always had an open door policy with me. He's like, just come to the show, you don't need a ticket. Like, your family, you come to the show, you don't need a ticket, you're in. So I would, if I, you know, wasn't working and I could go, I would go. And I remember Bert was out there, and I said, Bert, do you remember me? I'm the dude that you interviewed out there. He goes, oh God, yeah. He goes, oh dude, I wish you weren't afraid of heights. He goes, we were totally gonna pick you guys, but we knew that the one that we were gonna use you for, because you said that you like baseball and you were at, you know, I had like my Reds tattoo. He goes, I saw the tattoos and stuff, but he's like, yeah, we had to have somebody that, you know, wasn't afraid of heights or whatever. And so maybe 5 minutes later, Bert is standing like a few feet away from me, and Joey's show starts. And he and Lee are on stage, and Bert and I are standing out in the hallway, and all of a sudden Bert goes, oh my God! And I look over, and he runs over with his cell phone, puts it right in my face. He goes, look, Vanilla Ice just started following me. That was pretty funny, seeing that Vanilla Ice had started following him on Twitter. He was like totally like starstruck, you know, it was pretty funny. So Bert Kreischer, also very cool guy. I think I ran into him a couple other times outside of there, but he became so big and popular. There's always people around and he knows everybody. So I really didn't, you know, I felt like I had my moments in the past where I got my Bert Kreischer moment. So I kind of like lay back and let people have their own time. But yeah, those were some fun ones for me, meeting Bert Kreischer. So now let's get to one of the most uncomfortable celebrity meetings that I have ever had. Wow, this one went from being one of the coolest to one of the worst within like 20 seconds. And I'll tell you the story and you can decide whether or not it makes any sense to you. But so this took place in Newport Beach, California. My sister happened to be attending a work conference not too far away. I think it was like a half hour away or something. So they were staying in Newport Beach. So I said, hey, after your conference, I'll come out there and we'll hang out. I was living in Los Angeles. I didn't make it back to Ohio a ton, so I didn't get to see her a ton. So we decided to go out, get something to eat in Newport Beach, and then we were just kind of like walking around the pier and stuff, looking, because people that have houses there have like statues and all kinds of cool stuff. So at some point, you know, my sister and I both were raised as big baseball fans. We're big sports fans in general, but especially baseball. So we decide, hey, right across the street from where we ate dinner, there was an ice cream place. Why don't we go get some ice cream? So we walk over there, and just as we're about to like cross the street, catty corner, then it's probably 9 o'clock at night, 9:30, somewhere around there. A big SUV, like a big like Escalade, pulls up in the parking spot right in front of the ice cream place, and a guy hops out and walks in front of us. So I didn't think a thing of it, honestly. I guess I didn't realize that Newport Beach was kind of like a rich celebrity and athlete kind of home. That's where Kobe lived. I didn't know that at the time, but I found it out eventually. But we go into the ice cream place, and the guy who has already ordered his food, the guy from the Suburban or whatever it was. I'm sorry, it was Escalade Suburban. It was just a big SUV type thing. He's joking with the lady behind the counter. He's a really friendly guy. Then he turns around to my sister and I, and he's joking with us. He's like, oh, this ice cream is one of the best. I've eaten ice cream everywhere you can think of, and this is some of the best ice cream you'll ever find. He was just a real nice, friendly guy. And so he goes down to the end of the counter, and my sister and I are kind of like checking out what we're gonna order. And I happen to glance over because he reached his hand over the counter to pay, and I see he's got a big monster ring on. Like, this thing was huge. And I notice it's a sports ring. And I look at the profile, and all of a sudden I go, oh my God, that's Reggie Jackson. I'm sitting there seeing him in Naked Gun walking from the outfield towards the Queen. Oh my God, that's Reggie Jackson. I turn around, look at my sister, go, it's Reggie Jackson. She's like, I go, Reggie Jackson. I go, get your camera, get your camera. She goes, I go, camera, get your camera out. So she gets her camera out, and he turns around, he has his ice cream, and he's like, well, you guys have a great night. I said, you too, sir. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were. I just saw your ring. We are huge baseball fans. Could I get a photo with you? And all of a sudden, he goes from the nicest guy in the world to all of a sudden he goes like this. And I go, would that be okay? And he just goes, and he's not moving. So I look at my sister, I go, will you take our photo? Because I figure if he's not moving, then he must be like being okay with it. And he doesn't make a sound, nothing. She takes the photo. I look at the photo. He doesn't smile, nothing. I went, that was weird. I go, that was crazy. So he walks out, gets in his SUV, and I say to the lady behind the counter, I go, I'm just a big baseball fan. That was really strange. And I like turn over and look over my shoulder, and he is like crouched down in his truck, looking out the passenger side window at me, like almost like I followed him there. Like he's like glaring at me, and then he just takes off, like squeals the tires and takes off. And I'm like, weird. Like I was like, I didn't ask him for an autograph. No, but then I was like, that's really weird, because he's known for not only doing a lot of autograph signings and meet and greet stuff, but he's known for having a huge ego and loving attention. So I was really shocked. The lady behind the counter goes, oh, he's here all the time. Him and was it Tyson Chandler and Kobe? She said those three guys with their families were there like all the time. I was like, wow, what a weird interaction. So yeah, Reggie Jackson was super cool until we knew who he was, and then immediately like deadpan stone face. Rob Lowe. Okay, Rob Lowe, holy cow. So I loved Rob Lowe since I was a kid. I remember seeing Almost Fire, but of course he was Benjamin in Wayne's World. He was in Tommy Boy, and then of course Parks and Recreation, West Wing, all this stuff he's done. Really phenomenal actor. I love Parks and Recreation, and I got offered one day to go and work on Parks and Recreation. And I was actually hired to be Andy's stand-in. And then when I got there, looked like they hired 2 stand-ins. So they basically just said, hey, you know, we'll pay you the same amount, but we're just gonna use you in the regular scenes, because the guy who they had hired had done it once before. For shows like this, sometimes they'll have 4 or 5 different people that are stand-ins for the same character because they're not always available, you know, every time you need them. So, so they were doing an episode where it was actually the last episode that Rob Lowe was going to be on, because he and Rashida Jones' characters were going to be leaving the town. So Leslie Knope decides to throw an everything party for their going away, which is every holiday of the year in one place that they can go like to little pit stops and celebrate each one. So when they positioned me, I don't even remember what the holiday was. It might have been Easter, because it was like, I remember I was right by a little like arched bridge. But they stand me over there, and they had, you know, basically literally every holiday from President's Day to Arbor. I mean, they had every little holiday covered. So so they're filming this stuff the whole day. And it was in a big conference room that they had rented. And so they positioned me in my spot, and they gave me long sleeves, and it was really hot in there that day. So I rolled up my sleeves when they weren't filming, and I happen to have tattoos. You can probably see here that one of them is a Wright Brothers plane. One of them is the Cincinnati Reds mascot right there. So I had my sleeves rolled up. And right about this time, when they weren't filming us, they brought Rob Lowe in to place him for where they were gonna be filming him. And he came over, and all I hear the woman say is, Rob, be thinking of some 90s dances, because they're gonna have your 90s scene here. And so he said to her, I can do the worm. Do you want me to do the worm? And I remember like chuckling about that, because I was like, that's so great that like Rob Lowe at his age can do the worm. I mean, anybody who can do a worm is amazing, but Rob Lowe. So the lady walks away, and as Rob's standing there and he's kind of like practicing his dance or what like weird things he might do, he looks over and he sees my arm and he says, hey, Wright Brothers? I go, yeah. And he looks at the other arm, he goes, Cincinnati Reds, you're from Ohio. And I said, yeah. Well, Rob Lowe actually happens to be from very close to where I'm from. He was from Dayton, and I was from Troy, which is a 20-minute drive. So, so he walks over to me, and he's like, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Troy. And he goes, we're from the same area. He said, you know, my grandparents owned, and I said, I know, the Pancake House. He said, that's our, so we start talking. I go, yeah, my family's from the area from a long time. And I said, in fact, my grandpa and grandmother told me they used to go get pies at your grandpa's place. And he goes, oh yeah, he goes, my grandpa, he goes, you know, that restaurant, he became one of the richest people in this area at one time. He said he was the only person in Shelby County that had a Cadillac. And I was like, wow. He goes, yeah, my brother and I used to go up there and help before we moved, you know, to Los Angeles with our mother. He said we used to come back all the time and go visit with him. He said he was such a great guy. And so we're talking, I go, yeah, I said, my mom just said that you were in, that you were playing JFK in something on TV, and that she said you were amazing. So I just want to pass it on to you. He goes, thank you so much. He goes, you know, that was like a role of a lifetime. He goes, because I idolized Kennedy, and to get to play John F. Kennedy, and for people, someone like your mother that likes my career and to tell me I did a good job, he goes, that means a lot. And I remember just going, God, what a nice guy. And we stood there. He goes, and you're a Reds fan? I go, oh yeah, you know. I said, my grandpa's been following him since 37. I tell him where my grandpa, I mean, we talked for probably 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden the AD comes over and goes, okay, Rob, we're getting ready for you. Kind of walks him back over to his spot, and then comes over to me and she goes, you're not supposed to be talking to the actors. And he hears this and he goes, oh no, I went over to him. I wanted to talk to him. We're from the same area. And I remember going, wow, what a nice guy. Well, now, you know, at that time he had just released his book, and I didn't have it, but I have it now. And I started reading it, and now I know why he's so freaking nice when he meets people, especially somebody that likes his acting, because he tells a story in his book about going for an audition at Memorial Hall in Dayton for the Kenley Players. And while he's there, he sees a sign that Liza Minnelli is performing there that night. And he auditions. They basically tell him he's not good enough, but he says before he leaves, I tell my mom, I want to meet Liza Minnelli. I want to meet a famous person. And so they go over and they ask how he can meet her and everything. And she ends up inviting him back to her dressing room. He was, I think he said he was like 12 at this time or something like that, 10, 12. And she's super nice to him, gives him a hug, says, oh, you want to be an actor and you're good looking, this and that. She said, well, I hope to see you in Hollywood someday. And he said, and I thought to he goes, and I have seen her in Hollywood since. But he said, I just remembered thinking after I walked away, wow, if that would have went differently, I probably wouldn't want to be an actor today. But because she was so nice to me and just made me feel like when I went out to Hollywood, I was going to meet people like her, he goes, it just made my infatuation with wanting to be an actor grow even more. So he said, I realized then how important it was, you know, when you meet someone to, you know, what a lasting impression that could be. So that's why I had a really great interaction with him. So if you have a chance to meet Rob Lowe, I can pretty much guarantee you're probably gonna have a good interaction with him too. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Thank you, Rebecca Froze, Lauren Oliver, Big Grok, Morelli92, and Ray for becoming my newest Patreons. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time, and goodbye.